So minutes of the last meeting. Someone would like to move and second, please. Or Bernard, seconder. Or Master Race. Matters arising. Has anybody got anything they wanted to? Come against? Very good. Any matters arising? No. Most people online, you can speak, just to be clear, just hold down the space bar and speak, or you can put your hand up as well using whatever the wave your hand thing is into, obviously the people in the meeting will understand. Correspondence, right?
This correspondence, 4 items of incoming correspondence, affiliate club certification of office bearers, delegates, from affiliates clubs requesting assistance from matters regarding insurance, copies of the CACs, affiliate clubs received the 2024 ring orders, the Aussies members of Australia requesting one delegate meetings be live and Zoom, 2 recommence guest and honour dinner, 3 stating disapproval of the president boosting budget state election. 5 the president's government liaison officer Sam ongoing communication received the response to communication with the federal government, state government departments. 13 club notification of newsletters with details of minutes. Outings, outgoing correspondence, federal aid to the income, state of office bearers and private employees, detail of affiliation insurance provided to clubs and question, placement of 20,560 rings for 2024, the first consolidation to date. And the president stated that government liaison officer saying that is ongoing communication with federal governments, state government departments. So I'm calling moving second minutes.
Hello. And I think Mark had his Mark Throws.
What was that? Sorry.
You want to second that?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Yep. No worries. All in favour? No against? Carried. Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Our total deposit saw 110,000, the check balance as at today 101,929 03. Submit the following accounts for endorsement. Paying a further low August September was $55. Senator a further low August September $50. Venue cost for the customers off for tonight's meeting $200. Plastics packaging in advance for rings $51.60. This time commonly moved in second row.
Very good, you're moving and me a lot is offering to online. So. They're just making the point online that I think because really what we're hearing is from this microphone, so perhaps when anybody's going to speak for some time, I'll get out of this chair and sit somewhere else, and they say we'll swap seats. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. So, yeah, what did we have? Did we just do the treasury report? We did the treasury report, very good. So, general business. Do you want us to hear on that, or do you want to? There's a number of things I'll just mention. And so there's ring orders. Need to be submitted to Ron, I guess, by the 30th of September 2023 for the main distribution at the beginning of next year. Is that basically the message there? And it'll be in fairly well anyway. And the ring register and club membership cards are being sorted. So we're on to the main issue, which is that boost. Question, the motion, should CCBFA boost or otherwise distribute social media posts to the general public in the 5 weeks prior to elections? The point is that animal rights-based political parties such as the Animal Justice Party opposed to keeping animals, including caged birds. As most everybody here is aware, I know that sent my email and or at the previous meeting.
Excuse me for a second. That's working. The 2 microphones isn't working. We're getting echoes all over the place.
Oh, really? And I better, is that better, Anne?
Yeah, much better.
That's much better, is it? Well, I think people can hear me because I'm loud enough in this room. So I think I'll just turn the microphone off and I'll just make sure when people are speaking that they basically sit where I'm sitting, because it's that laptop, for those online, that's using the microphone. My laptop.
Move a bit closer to it.
I don't have a is that better?
Yep.
I don't have the charging cable for this laptop, and I've been throughout the day for work stuff. So, to be perfectly honest, I have no idea how long the battery's going to last. So, I'm sorry to say, I was of the view that this was organised in this venue, but in fact, there's no computer here. So I pulled this one out of my bag. It may all turn to crap quickly. You may disappear. Ben has got his mobile. He's the one that's doing the camera work. We can, of course, revert just to his mobile, and he does. He did wisely. Bought a charging thing that he's got, so he's actually plugged into a PowerPoint with his mobile. So there may be a delay if the computer goes off while we try to get him to be the host to get.
What?
So just be aware.
While you're there, just keep looking at your computer when you're talking, because when you turn your head away, you disappear. And well, I think what we're getting is when you're looking at your computer, we're hearing you. As soon as you look at Ben, we're hearing it double through his phone as well.
Hang on. Well, I might then set this table up a little differently, eh? What if I set how's that work, Ian?
Much better.
And I think the people in front of me, well, at least I can see them now. Yeah. And Ben's still, maybe you're better to move a bit closer. And
all right, we can see.
that's okay. You can see what's going on. Oh, you can see my fat belly. The plan is in a couple of years' time, that'll be gone. It's been the plan for a while. Now I've lost what I'm supposed to be doing, haven't I? So the aim was that the aim was that this meeting be dedicated to this matter and be both in person via Zoom, which we've got going, thankfully, at long last. Let's hope everybody can see. An independent facilitator was to be enrolled. That hasn't happened. I don't know why it hasn't. The meeting to be recorded. So as you will note, it is being recorded via Zoom. So the link to that somehow I'll get to people, I suppose, so that other clubs and members can view it. The summary of each side was to be prepared, so that's happened. I know Bob did the against and I did the for one. And then the format of the meeting will be 20 minutes for each side to present, 40 minutes questions from the floor, followed by 30 minutes to discuss the way forward. Decision to be delayed until the November meeting or later. But let's see how we go. So I don't mind who goes first. Do you want to go? Who's doing the against case? Do you want to go first? I can go first. I don't mind. I'll give you the option. The people here, copies of all 3 of them. Because I'm just going to basically go through one of them. And I hope everybody online has a copy. I probably could get it up on my laptop somehow and put it on the screen, but I think it's better for us to keep Zoom up on the screen in here so that people in the hall here, and perhaps Ben, you can just flash that around and show them there is a good number. What is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, maybe 30 people in person here, something like that. And I shall, exactly what's being said online, I shall ensure that when people are going to speak, they take the chair that I'm sitting in, and I shall vacate it. That's good. They're just saying how many are here in person. There is about 30. So just to be clear, the motion was, should CCBFA boost or otherwise distribute social media posts to the general public in the final weeks prior to elections that point out that animal rights-based political parties, such as the Animal Justice Party, oppose the keeping of animals, including caged birds. So the point of this, the purpose and focus of all political activity that I've recommended and undertaken during the 6 years that I've been president of, or nearly 6 years, will be at the next AGM of Federation, is to protect the rights of bird keepers nationally, to continue our hobby in peace with minimal interference from all levels of government. All activity I've undertaken at local government, state government, federal government is highly political. It all involves politicians, and I'll go through some examples in a second. Sadly, we and all who keep animals in captivity are under ever-increasing pressure from animal rights influences, including the political arm of the animal rights movement in Australia, namely the Animal Justice Party, which obviously was the focus of the boosts that where we boosted the Facebook posts prior to the New South Wales election. Some facts first up about the Animal Justice Party. In New South Wales, Mark Pearson was the first upper house member of parliament representing the AJP. Prior to joining the AJP and running for parliament, Mark was the chief executive officer for Animal Liberation Australia. He's no longer in parliament. The fact that we boosted all these posts, and that greyhounds, and that the companion animal party that came up from Victoria, and Dogs New South Wales, and Animal Care Australia, and a range of other people were active in promoting the fact to the general public that the Animal Justice Party opposes keeping captive animals. We don't know exactly how much influence that has, but the reality is we won, and they did not get a second member of parliament in at the last election. They were equal with there was actually an extra Labor member got into the upper house rather than an Animal Justice Party member. From my perspective, when that happened, I was rejoicing. As far as I was concerned, we had a major win, because it's not only having an Animal Justice Party member of parliament sitting in the upper house in Macquarie Street, they get 3 to 4 full-time staff as well. So that means they went from having, 7 or 8 full-time staff working for them in Macquarie Street and office space and all the rest of it, to only having 3 or 4 with Emma Hurst. It also gave us some impetus to think that at the next election, because upper house is 2 terms, at the next election in New South Wales, we can wipe Emma Hurst out of parliament. And that would change the nature of my life and Animal Care Australia's in particular, because most of the work we've been doing in New South Wales Parliament, the various parliamentary inquiries that I've been to, that our horse rep Kerry's been to, that our dog rep Kylie's been to, that Michael Donnelly, as President of Animal Care Australia, has been to continually over the last 4 or 5 years, have been a consequence of the Animal Justice Party. So this party is a real threat. Be clear on that. Is a real and present threat to the ability to keep any captive animals, including birds. There is no doubt that they are against keeping birds in cages. Emma Hurst was the chief media officer for PETA for 12 years and a campaign officer for Animal Liberation Australia prior to entering politics. She may well say all the happy things today, and I know Emma well enough to I've met with her many times.
She's a very clever and smart operator. She's currently with the AJP member from Victoria in Washington, DC, lobbying US politicians. She's a smart operator. There's no doubt about that. She's absolutely a smart operator. She's very clever, and she will not say to you that she's an animal rights activist. She will not say to you that she's against puppies or against birds, but be assured that is her aim. That is what she has devoted her life to, is stopping all animals in captivity. They're focusing on farm animals, but at the same time, they've got their fingers in the pie of a whole lot of policies and procedures going on behind the scenes. In Victoria, we had Andy Medic. He was the first AJP Member of Parliament. The last Victoria election, Andy Medic was essentially replaced by Georgie Purcell. So Georgie is a young girl covered in tattoos, similar, pretty young thing with lots of makeup, similar to Emma. And the two of them are both in Washington, DC, currently lobbying. They're particularly about kangaroos and the export of kangaroo meat, but obviously other issues as well. Both PETA and Animal Liberation Australia are known extremist animal rights organisations. I don't think anybody would deny that, including PETA and Animal Liberation Australia. Their ultimate aim, as expressed by PETA founder Ingrid Newkirk, is to abolish all animals in captivity, including birds. They hold the view immediate abolition is needed, but is simply unrealistic. This is the words of Ingrid Newkirk, who started PETA and is still their founder. Instead, these advocates support the pursuit of incremental welfare reform as a means to achieving their goal. So that's code for saying they want to over-regulate the crap out of everything we do. And you know what? You'll go, well, I won't bother breeding budgies or canaries or finches or parrots or chooks or pigeons or whatever it is that's your flavour. Instead, I'll go and collect stamps or something, because this is all too hard. And we see it already with pet shops. I was talking to Colin over dinner, and I know the Brinketts are here as well. The ridiculous nature of the pet shop code of practice that we all nearly, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that we all nearly had to abide by as well, has driven most pet shops out of business in terms of selling animals. Most suburban pet shops now, there's been quite a few over the years that I've spoken to, and I'm sure Andrew and Deb would mention some others, where it used to be the suburban pet shop had some budgies, maybe a few canaries, couple of zebra finches, diamond doves, king quail, something like that. They then get a visit from the RSPCA, who goes and has a look, and the code is impossible for any reasonable person. The Brinketts are a little crazy, so they're giving it a shot to abide by. So you know what they do? They get rid of all their animals. And I mean, it's not just birds, to be fair. It's kittens and puppies and guinea pigs, and they get rid of their animals and they don't bother with it. Because really they only had the animals up the back so mum would come in with the kids. And that's all animal rights people behind the scenes pushing stuff at government. Now, regarding the Facebook posts, so prior to so I've been making Facebook posts just like the ones that were boosted. Been doing them since the moment I began with Federation. Now, it may be that a lot of people in this room are unaware of that. Perhaps, I mean, I know a lot of you are, perhaps a little bit older and you don't engage with social media or with the internet and so on. The reality is it's a cheap and easy way to reach hundreds of thousands of people very effectively. So we've been doing that since it was first created in 2016. With no kickback from any clubs until this matter arose, as far as I was aware anyway. Maybe people didn't speak up. That's possible given what's happened. These campaigns provide public support when I and others are negotiating with politicians to resolve issues. Here's a couple of examples. 2016, you'll remember that bird sales in Victoria were halted by a single animal rights nutter, but with the support of a number of organisations, including Animals Australia and a few others. That took a lot of effort. I'm sure Ron will agree. There was a massive effort on my part and on the part of a number of people in Victoria as well, to be fair, to overthrow that. And a lot of that was to do with the online campaign. You've got to get the support of the public before the politicians will listen. the crux of that was a meeting that I organised via at the time the Labor Party was in power in Victoria. Jayla Pulford was the Agriculture Minister. The poor girl had lost her daughter when she was only 13, and her daughter was a real animal rights type activist. All right. So the minister had real emotional skin in the game. So it wasn't easy to convince her to even meet with us. Took, oh, I can't remember, Ron, it was at least 18 months, probably 2 years maybe. I went down and met with her chief of staff, and Gary Fitt came with me that meeting. It was horrendous because we'd forced them to meet with us. And I think she opened the door and looked at me and said, "Who the hell are you? You're from New South Wales. What's this got to do with you?" That was the way she greeted me. And you know, that's the problem when they're meeting, because they have to. But we then progressed the matter, and I got Peter Walsh, the leader of the Nationals in Victoria, was great assistance, and particularly his chief of staff, whose name escapes me, but she was lovely. And also both Jeff Borman and Daniel Young, who were MPs for the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party. They also assisted. Peter Walsh and his office organised a space in Parliament House where myself and a number of other people who were there when we did get the meeting with Jayla, we met beforehand. Representatives from the Victorian Agricultural Council, ASA, Stacey Gellis was there to present and so on. Oh, no, sorry, we'd already had a parliamentary inquiry where we brought up the thing. We brought up the whole issue. We then met with Jayla Pulford, and as a consequence, I met with her senior policy officer, Jaden, and we changed the law. She agreed to give an exemption straight up. We then subsequently changed the law to allow bird sales to continue in that state. To be honest, that law that was in place that these activists had found really should have shut down all shows as well. All shows and sales. It was more good luck than good management. It was the big ones, obviously, that are obvious to the public. So that was a huge one. The next example I've got here, which is a New South Wales one. I note that most people in the room here, I know it's not the case online, there's a lot of interstate people, but in the room are mostly New South Wales, I presume, was the Department of Primary Industries issue. So that one, I was in the process with other people, talking to National Parks and Wildlife Service in New South Wales regarding native animal licensing. We were lucky enough, well, unlucky in a way, I guess. Department of Primary Industries, Department of Ag, that's centred in Orange. They had put together a policy that meant that the regs would change so that anybody who bred a bird, and other animals too, it affected reptiles, and it was an issue as well, not so much dogs and cats, they're covered by different stuff, would have to comply. If you bred a bird and wished to sell it, you would have to comply with the Pet Shop Code of Practice. And I mean, Deb and Andrew can talk about the Pet Shop Code of Practice, but honestly, it would be impossible for anybody who's a private agriculturist to do it. It involves a whole ton of paperwork. You've got specific cage sizes. Straight away, every single show cage that we've ever used would be illegal. You've got to have documented regimes. You've got to have your vet's number on display at your premises. It just goes on and on and on. There's literally, 30 odd pages of this gobbledygook that goes on and on. And I mean, it really is. You've got to be, quarantining. I mean, we all should quarantine. I get that, but disinfect. That's what disinfecting. Deb's just saying, disinfecting cages daily, and it goes on and on and on and on with all this stuff that pet shops have got to do. Anyway, the way that we found out about this, fortunately, was because I did have a decent contact in national parks. DPI, as they were about to implement it, let National Parks and Wildlife Service know, simply because they license our native birds. So I was given the heads up, and then started questioning the whole thing, and then it became a huge issue. And over that issue, I know a lot of you don't go to the big bird sales, and I don't know whether you guys at your exhibitions got involved in this too much. I think the Budgerigars Society did, in fact. So I don't want to verbal you guys. And we managed to get it overthrown. And this was a massive job, and it led to the formation of Animal Care Australia, actually, because Michael Donnelly was kind of my equivalent for reptiles at the time. So he got on board, and we managed to stop it. That issue also led to quite a decent relationship with Niall Blair and his Chief of Staff, Holly, at the time, between me and Holly. And we talked about quite a range of things. And that led to the appointment and Michael Donnelly as well was involved. That led to the appointment of Kim Filmer, who's currently the Chief Animal Welfare Officer for New South Wales. That position was formed because it was acknowledged by Niall. Niall was the Ag Minister at the time. He was in Nationals. That's when we had a Liberal National government. Kim is fantastic. And as a consequence of having Kim Filmer in that position, we became aware of quite a lot of things. For instance, RSPCA is not withholden to the Department of Primary Industries at all. There were some issues with dogs that I won't go into, and crazy checks of anyone or anybody who's bred a dog in the last 5 years that went on with RSPCA. Kim, in her position as head of animal welfare, tried to get that changed, and basically RSPCA's chief inspector told her to go shove it. It was not within her jurisdiction. They were in charge. So that in itself was significant and will lead to, well, we hope, hasn't quite yet, but with the new Animal Welfare Act bill that's being looked at in New South Wales currently, that'll likely be changed. So that was a huge win that basically saved aviculture. Just mentioned in passing, in other countries, they've not been so lucky. I don't know if you're aware what's going on in Europe at the moment, particularly in the UK, stuff in the Netherlands. The US is, it's been buggered forever, for a long time, really. It's a pet bird industry, really. There's some commercial breeders, but it's basically people keeping pets. It's nothing like it was. And I'm terrified that we're heading the same way. In terms of native animal licensing, some of you will remember, I'm not sure, Jim may have come, I'm not sure, but there were certainly some budgerigar people. There were some zebra finch people who came to the meeting. Oh, Ian Manton came, I think. Might be the budgie bloke that came. It was about 30. We had a problem when the early days of the New South Wales native bird and reptile licensing business, where they decided in their wisdom that they wanted all native birds to be licensed, including zebra finches, cockatiels, budgerigars, the whole bloody lot. So I negotiated with Rob Oliver, who was the consultant, who I now sort of consider a friend, and he organised a meeting at the Parramatta, I can see where it is, I think it was the Novotel. Did I write it there, did I? It was a Novotel. And fortunately, we had 30 plus. Were you there, Bob? I don't remember. Yep. And that was the impetus that stopped that, put the kibosh on that. Again, there was a huge social media backing to this that got the politicians up and listening at the end of the day. So there are a couple of examples. There's many, many others, most of them smaller, involving local council. There's been 2 local council ones this week, one with Gold Coast City Council, one with Moreton Bay Council. Unfortunately, with Gold Coast, the win hasn't been quite as what we would have hoped for. With Gold Coast Council, they had a policy before where you could put in a code of practice and get that ratified. The only club that ever did it was the Surfers Paradise Budgerigar Club. They're off the hook because we managed to negotiate a grandfathering clause so that anybody who was compliant prior to the new code can remain. Everybody else is buggered, or any new people. So that was partly a win. But the rule there is, I think it's no large parrots. This is on residential, anything under 1,000 square metres. No large parrots, 2 small parrots, up to 10 finches, canaries, etc. After that, you must apply, and that basically goes through a sort of a mini DA process. Moreton Bay Council already had that in, that it was this no large parrots. There was a big media case, a lady with one single pet Alexandrine. I don't know whether you saw it. I've been sort of assisting behind the scenes with that. We got that sort of paused because they were looking at their animal management policy. They've just indicated in the last couple of days that they're going to, as a consequence of the social media activity, they are going to now, as I've recommended, and Gary Fitt, I think, to be fair, was the first one to point this out to me. There's a for native birds, there's a code of practice for aviculture, and they've indicated that they will instead forget all this silly numbers game, and they will instead abide by that, which means sensible, sort of rules and regulations. You've got to have reasonable size cages and aviaries and all the rest of it, but not this blanket no, unless you can pray to the right God and jump through the right hoops. Moving on, I know that a lot of you have probably seen the next section. So in regard to the actual election Facebook campaign prior to the New South Wales election, just to be clear, how to vote flyers only come out 2 weeks or so prior to the election, because that's when they do the draw for the order of candidates. So they can't produce them prior to that. It was brought to my attention through Michael Donnelly, actually, through Animal Care Australia, that both Labor and the Greens were preferencing the AJP. So they had, Labor in the upper house, which is all that matters. There's no way AJP going to get anyone in local electorates in the lower house. So in the upper house, the Labor Party was saying, recommending in their how to vote, that you vote Labor, then you vote Greens, and then you vote AJP. Okay? And vice versa for the Greens. They were going to go Greens, Labor, then the AJP. Now, this was an absolute shock to us, because that means, in essence, when these preferences float down, so let's say at the end of the day, these preferences float down, and there's only, on the Labor side, there might be only 0.3 of a candidate. You know what I mean? They've got to get a quota, so it might be, I can't remember how many Labor's got, but let's say Labor had 10, but they actually had 10.3, right? And then the Greens had 3.4, so their 0.4 goes to Labor. That means Labor's now got 10.7, right, when that floats down. Then 0.7, well, that's not enough, is it? It's not 1. So that 0.7 then floats down to the Animal Justice Party. And the Animal Justice Party adds that 0.7 to what they've already got, and they get in. That's exactly how Mark Pearson got in. It's exactly how Emma Hurst got in. So that's what I wanted to make people aware of. And that's what Animal Care Australia wanted to make them aware of. It's what the companion animal pets, it's what the greyhound racing industry, it's what Dogs New South Wales wanted to get the message out quick and fast to the general public. Now, prior to that boost, all the Facebook posts I'd done were sort of to the converted. I was doing it for free. So you're only sharing it with bird groups and animal groups and people I know. So in a sense, you're not breaching, probably you people are not going to vote for the AJP anyway. You probably wouldn't, even if you saw it on as a preference. You go, oh, I'm not putting the 3 next to them. I'll jump that and I'll put the 3 next to whatever comes next, But the general public don't know that. So the point was to let them know, and let them know quickly. So that's why I recommended that we do it. So I did I know there's misinformation here. It is not true. I did email the committee. I missed 2 people. I missed Colin, wasn't on my list. I apologise. And I missed Christine Gunter. She wasn't on my list. So the 2 of them I missed. I accept that initially. The rest of the people either said nothing or agreed. Jason Forrest, one of our management committee, asked for some changes, because I had on one of them I had Peter's logo and I had Animal Liberation's logo. So I replaced it with the word, with the letters PETA and the words Animal Liberation. And then off it went. And it went brilliantly, in my view. Obviously, people here disagree. It went brilliantly. We had 400 to 500 comments. And a lot of them are AJP sympathisers who are saying, this is bullshit, we don't oppose pets. So I'm responding saying, hang on, both your members, one of them worked for Peter for 12 years, one worked for Animal Liberation for years. Are you saying that they're not animal rights? And they would not answer that. And I said, so do you oppose birds in cages, or are you fine with birds in cages? And they'll go, oh, no, we don't like birds in cages. I said, well, what about reptiles? Are you okay with people keeping reptiles as pets? Oh, no. So I said, so what's the lie? We're saying that that AJP opposes pets. What pets are you okay with? No answer. So that conversation was happening, I think, probably hundreds of times, Ben, I don't know, but there's a lot of times because there's 500 odd posts. So that conversation's happening 100 times. And that conversation is being viewed by, I don't know how many people, but 100,000 people, perhaps more. So it got out into the general public. Now, was it the reason that they didn't get a second member? I don't know. Did it help? Of course. Was it saying don't vote for the AJP? No, it wasn't. It was saying the AJP opposes pets and that their members once worked for PETA and once worked for animal liberation. That's what it was saying. If people oppose pets, go ahead, vote for the AJP. If people want to have pets, don't vote for the AJP. That's what it was saying. Now, I don't understand what happened after that, but there was one person who lives on the Northern Beaches as well and was known to some of the Committee of Animal Care Australia, rang Ron, and perhaps Beth answered, okay, and I'm sure it wasn't a pleasant phone call because she then was given my phone number and my wife answered and got rid of her as well. And obviously that's not pleasant to have people doing that. So I don't know. I've written here, I don't know, is that accurate, Ron? Single individual animal rights, extremist rang Ron Robinson, well, it turns out it was Beth, but anyway, similar. And was, by the sound of it, quite abusive. Ron then provided my home number. She rang and my wife diverted and got rid of her, basically. And I never heard anything from her. Well, I knew who she was because she was commenting online too, with a whole lot of rambling nonsense. So, again, to be clear, the campaign was successful. Not just us, all the other groups that I mentioned who were campaigning as well. We now only have one animal justice member in New South Wales in the upper house. Massive difference to having two. There was two. There was Mark Pearson. Mark stood aside. But you know, we were expecting them to get one. We were worried they'd get two as a consequence of this. So when they were competing, when they were doing the count, everything, not competing, but you know, when the final count was being done, and it takes weeks. The last position, I think I can't quite, I might be wrong here. I think there's 44 members in the upper house, so there's 22 voted in an election. So the 22nd member was between the Labor Party and the Animal Justice Party. Last time it was between David Leyonhjelm of the Liberal Democrats and Emma Hurst of the Animal Justice Party. Emma won. David thought he'd won. He'd rented office space in the city. And then the preferences flowed to Emma and she ended up winning. That's how she got in last time. So by the skin of her teeth, less than 1% of the vote she got of the you know, like obviously, what was it, 22, 100 divided by 22, something like 4.5% of the vote you should need. She had less than 1%, and yet she got in because of these preferences. This time she didn't, well, she's still in because she does a double term. This time they didn't get anyone in. So that's what we're trying to argue about here, to be clear. Should we continue doing that to stop these people, Animal Justice Party in this case, from getting into Parliament and causing all sorts of pain? So those clubs that are arguing against Federation being involved in political activity, including via Facebook, are, in my view, acting against the best interests of agriculture. Without public campaigns, including social media such as Facebook, we cannot hope to put up a meaningful defence to those who wish to over-regulate and ultimately end bird keeping in Australia. In my view, we should be doing more, not less. So I'll leave it at that. And Bob might like to. I've printed off some of Bob's too. Do people want a copy of what, Brett? You want to give them out, or you're right? You're good. Okay. Hang on, we'll get out of the way.
Okay. I think Sam used up half of my 20 minutes as well, but no, that's okay. It's okay. No, that's all good. I guess from my perspective, hang on a sec. From my perspective, and I've tried to represent as many of the exhibitors as I can, because that seems to be the group that's most opposed. I was surprised with the letters that came in, what they commented on, and I had a real concern, and I still have a real concern that it'll lead to the fracturing of canary and cage birds, which will do none of us any good at all. Let me stress from the onset. My opposition, and I believe the opposition that is most prevalent, it isn't about any of, or most of what Sam talked about. I don't doubt the politic and things he talked about. I don't in any way belittle the amount of effort he's put in at different committees and everything else. The motion is purely about the boosting of a Facebook page. Right? Nothing more. Doesn't talk about any of the other actions that Sam's just talked about for 20 minutes. The boosting is the only issue. Now, let me just, I'll just put a few bullet points down. I'll disagree with some of the things said, but we don't need to raise them just yet. Let's just talk about Emma Hurst initially. I'm on her fan page because it's the only way to keep an eye on her is to be a friend, right? So she's pretty. She puts up pictures of puppies and little lambs and neglected animals, monkeys that have been had medical tests done on them, horses that are dying of starvation. And she gets a tearjerk effect from thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And when you read the comments of everybody else, they almost treat her like a saint. So then a bunch of old blokes and some ladies who run with the title Cage Birds oppose her. It's bullshit, guys. We haven't got a leg to stand on when in our title, we're called Caged Birds. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a political arm somewhere. It just should not be this group. We don't have anywhere to go. Sam's now categorized us all as the canary fraternity or the canary something or other, even though a lot of you are budgie guys and finch guys and the rest, right? What we are and what we've been for 60 years, to my knowledge, is a federation of exhibition clubs. Ron tells me 80% of the membership of the clubs, even today, is exhibition clubs. It's what we do. 5 months of the year, we meet every Saturday or Sunday and put our birds on a bench and go and have a chat and feel good about ourselves and everything else, right? And chat about birds. Right? Recent times, there's been a significant change the way we do things. All our colleagues on Facebook here, and it's great to see. Most of them aren't exhibitors. And I'm not taking anything away from it. The Queensland Finch guys and all the other people that I see in front of me on the strip, they're parrot breeders or they're whatever they are, but they're not exhibitors. And yet they've rallied around suggesting that we should be fighting for our livelihood. Of course we should, but not as the Canary and Cage Bird Society. When Sam made the comment that all of the committee agreed, he chose not to put back that I responded saying, on a one-on-one with Sam, saying I thought it was inappropriate, that it wasn't our place to make those comments. I've said those things before to Sam, and presently one of the people online, Simon Degan, has said he's going to take me to court because I mentioned him on my submission, right? Because Sam brought him to a Canadian Cage Bird meeting, which I felt was inappropriate, right? We're there to do what we do, and what we do is exhibit birds, and we're old and we may be slowly dying out, but it's what we do today, and hopefully we do for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years. If there's going to be a group to represent pet owners, it should be somebody like the ACA, which we were encouraged to join. Many of the local clubs are members of the ACA. When I first asked Sam why the ACA didn't boost, he said because they were a not-for-profit and they couldn't. He then responded saying no, it wasn't that they were a charity, and as a charity they couldn't enter into those sort of discussions. Well, the RSPCA is a charity, and they quite happily publicised. The latest information is that the ACA did in fact boost using Sam's own account. Not the ACA's account, but Sam's account. So I'm just trying to stress to everybody that this isn't the group to be taken on political flack. Where, like I say, in our very name, we're saying we're cage bird keepers, right? The majority of the population frowns on us. We need to explain ourselves every time we talk to anybody. You know? It's just not the right group. Getting further on to the boosting. To me, it's I don't quite understand the terms. I'm of that vintage that I struggle with any sort of IT. But to me, boosting just to me is more junk mail. So in recent times, I'm getting the voice come through telling me how I should vote in the upcoming census thing or constitutional fight. I didn't ask for that information. Anything I want, I will look up myself. When I go to vote, maybe I'm in the minority, but I look at the how to vote guides. I determine whether I'm going to vote above the line or below the line. I don't need to be guided by somebody else. I think if it was such an important thing, it just amazes me we didn't tell all our membership before we told people we don't even know. You know, so we publicised it to 100,000 people with a boost at a cost, and we were about to do it to another group at a greater cost. Sam said everybody was in favour, but we didn't go ahead with the second lot because everybody wasn't in favour, right? The majority of clubs that we sent out the motion and we asked people to respond, and those that have responded, the majority are saying no, we don't want to boost. They're not saying no, don't be political, or no, don't go to a council meeting, or no, don't represent us if it's an RSPCA attacking the Brincats, or no, not to get involved in anything else. The motion says, should we boost? And the overwhelming answer to date is no, we shouldn't boost. We should simply count the votes, get that out of the way one way or the other. And if I've miscounted it and it goes the other way and I do boost, then that's the majority. Then if we want to talk about all the other stuff, then so be it. My little page on boosting is one page. I then have pages on the other issues that are coming up and whether we are or are not a political organisation and all the other things that Sam has raised as potential issues. None of them have been raised at a meeting. Nobody's moved the motion about anything that Sam does. And yet Sam's, in recent times, has written many times saying he refuses to do something because he doesn't have the backing of the committee, or he's not going to do this on behalf of the Canary and Cage Bird. He's doing it as a private individual. He does a magazine article for the ABK, and he's had the Canary and Cage Bird logo removed because he doesn't think it's appropriate that he's representing us. So there's been a massive overreaction. There's a lot of people that are angry at a lot of us on the committee, not just Sam, not just me, everybody. You know, this isn't what we're about. We're about a bunch of people that show birds half of the year and breed them the other half of the year. We will get involved. We will support political activity at some other venue, not at ours. You know, so that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Let's see what questions come up. Maybe you said it kind of well, so it's not good. Myself in the same boat with Paul. So we'll move on to questions then, for a while, and just see how we go. Maybe Ron can sort of keep track of time, because we don't want to go on, till Christmas, obviously. So for those people online, if you want to ask a question or got a comment or something, obviously unmute yourself and make your presence felt. Otherwise, if you're in the room, if you want to sort of say a fair bit, I'll get out of the way and you can sit here. But if your question's relatively simple, perhaps just stand up and Ben can point his thing at you, and I'll relay what the question is, if you don't mind, or perhaps Bob can if you prefer, so that people online are aware. But you're more than welcome, obviously, to come up here and sit here and do it so everybody can hear. Anybody like to start?
The role of you.
The question was, sorry, what's your name again? Michael Patrick Fogarty. So he's asking if and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, that I said it's either Ron or I that have to go. I don't know if I said it quite like that, but I did indeed. I did indeed say similar, yes, and I'll speak to that at the end. Battery is running low, and well, I can't plug it in, so that is for those people online. It's just indicated that the battery on this laptop is running low. So if that happens, we'll jump over to. I'll turn this off, and we'll just have to jump over to Ben's machine. Yes, perhaps if you're online, ask your questions straight up. So yes, that's true, Michael, and I mean, I'll address that. I've got some comments I'd like to make once we've finished. That'll address that. Do you want to come up here, Michael, so other people can hear you, please? No, I'm just asking because there's 20 people online who'd like to hear what you're saying. So, sorry, Michael, it's not appropriate for you to exclude 20 people. Could you? I'll move out of the way. You come up here and speak. I can't. I'll use this one, and you take your camera up there. We're gonna unmute Ben, and I'll mute here so that you can hear what. It's Michael Fogarty that wants to speak, so that everyone can hear. To be fair to everybody.
Now,
It's not going to work.
Sam, just reload.
Get him off his arse.
what gives you the right to say that to Ron? What gives it the right? Ron has run Federation for that long, it's not funny. We've had plenty of second presidents, some that they didn't like and some they did like, but I've never been involved with a person that is hated as much as you. I've never seen somebody stand up at the meetings that I've been to.
Sorry,
Yeah, well, that's good.
are you still going?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So you'll need to
Once you get a microphone in your hand, you're just impossible to interrupt or talk to. You sit on both the left and right hand side of God, in your own opinion. You're intoxicated with your own importance. I've never been involved in the Bird Club with anything like that in my life. And as far as
I'm concerned, Ron's a golden boy. And you
Yeah,
want to
that's
just
really poor,
peer
mate.
into the wilderness, the political wilderness,
Oh,
which you were so involved with. I did. You've got more eyes than in they got in Madagascar with those bloody things. I've never heard anything like it, except Albanese and ScoMo and a few others.
Yeah, Sam, it's Mark's race, mate. Can you get that guy off?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for that comment. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? You'll need to, it's going to come through for those people online. I'm not even sure if you can still hear. Indicate, then we'll see if you'd like to speak.
Sam, I've got a comment.
Sorry, just
Volume's up.
clear, you're going to be just coming through Ben's phone. Yeah, but then it's going to be back. So just can you turn the volume up anyway?
Sam.
So we'll just.
Fuck.
So we've got who wants to speak?
Yeah, Sam.
Who is it? Sorry,
Mark's race.
Mark Therace wants to speak. I'll try to get it so that other people can hear. Otherwise, we'll relay what you're saying, Mark.
Yeah, no, I just geez, that bloke was gracious, wasn't he? Mate, what I would like to say is that do these exhibition guys actually believe that they're immune to any of this? The Animal Justice Party, the RSPCA are fanatics, and the only way you deal with fanatics is by being fanatical. And if that means boost the post in order to get the greater majority of the public on side, so be it. I just cannot. It's foolhardy for these guys to think they're going to be immune to that because they're classed as exhibitionists. And it'll be a sad day for everybody. This is what it's come to, and it's split the federation. It's appalling.
Thanks, Mark. Anybody else? Either.
It's Gary here. I've got a question.
Yeah, this is Gary Fitt from NFSA and Queensland French Society. Thanks, Gary.
Representing NFSA.
Right.
Like I agree, we have to be proactive and be addressing these threats because they're real. But I just had a question of clarification from Bob. Bob, in the no document, it reads as though Canary and Cagebird is a New South Wales organisation. Is that how we should be perceiving the position?
Can I answer that? Yeah. The question was whether the Canary and Cagebird Federation should be perceived as New South Wales or national. And until just a few years ago, we were most definitely just New South Wales. Sam's expanded it, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to that, but it has expanded into West Australia and Victoria and Queensland. But by the same token, each of those states had their own governing body. So there was VAC in Victoria, and I don't know how they respond to us going down on their turf. Maybe they're perfectly happy. Same as you guys in Queensland when Sam went up and helped you with your licensing up there. I don't know if that was well received or you thought, what the hell is this bloke? I don't know. Should we be national? I think it's a very good question, and perhaps we should debate that and decide what we want to be. But it's
always been the Canary and Cagebird Federation of Australia, not New South Wales.
I'm the secretary of the Norwich Society of Australia, and there's another one in Victoria. That's the Norwich Society of Victoria, and we got nothing to do with each other, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. I'll just say something on that. My view, just the history before I got involved with Federation. I mean, in terms of exhibiting, obviously some people know in recent years I've put some birds in the Easter show, but it's not my thing, and I don't prepare them. I'm not into showing at this point in time in my life. I did actually commence as a youngster breeding budgies. Was a member of Northside branch. and you know, I remember a lot of the old guys that were there, including our good mate Don Burke. But in recent years, that's certainly not the case. The reason I got involved with Federation, and I still remember one of the early phone calls with Ron Robertson. I tried to work with the ABA, and they were basically not doing anything and not open to my assistance. My background is working substantially in education, but with government and working on a range of reasonable projects, as many of you would know. I also do a lot of work, community work in the local area regarding a lot of issues, particularly in Wallandilly Council, but other areas to do with mine subsidence. I thought that my skills would be useful in this area, and I could see a need. The ABA were not open to that. I went to the ABA meetings as the delegate, probably for the Finch Society, or maybe it was the Abbey Society in New South Wales. I forget which, maybe both. I can't remember, and gave up. And then rang Ron and realised, knew of course, that Canary and Cage Bird Federation of Australia had well over 200 clubs nationally that were affiliated, and I accept to this day, many of them are affiliated simply for insurance. But I could see that that was a really good way of saying to government, we're all together and we're all together as one. And when you go in there and say there's 200 plus clubs, people take notice. So yes, I was using it to our advantage. That was absolutely the intention. Am I an exhibitor? No, I'm not an exhibitor. Do I understand exhibiting? I think I do. Do I know anything about canaries? No, I know bugger all about canaries. I accept that. I know a lot about finches, a bit about some parrots, and a bit about budgies. But I'm a finch man and soft bills as well. That's my passion in terms of the hobby. Not canaries, certainly not exhibiting at this point in time. So that's true. And it is something to resolve. What is Federation about? If it's New South Wales, it's not a national organisation.
Could I just encourage us to keep the conversation about boosting, not about if we're national or state. We can discuss that at any time. The discussion today is specifically about boosting.
Sam, this is Richard Law from the Hunter Valley Finch Club. Can you hear me?
Richard Law from Hunter Valley Finch, for people in the room.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'd just like to endorse the comments made just then. I think it's an emotive issue and people have things on their mind that they want to get off their mind, but that's not the purpose of tonight's meeting. I would suggest to everybody that the way forward is to formally invite all clubs to register an opinion on the specific motion that's before us. You've already highlighted that a decision will be made at the November meeting, but it's my understanding there's really been no formal request for responses thus far. The way forward is, I think, as Bob indicated, ask clubs what they feel, get them to simply respond to a designated person, whoever Federation decides should be that designated person, with a simple yes or no in relation to the boosting issue, and put the matter to bed. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I'm not against that. And unfortunately, and I don't want to talk about it tonight. I have got something I'd like to say at the end. But tonight, I agree, is not the time to talk about these issues in terms of whether the future of Federation. That's for another time and another place. But I think it needs to happen. It does need to happen, for sure. But yeah, let's stick to the boosting. Anyone else got other things to say about using Facebook to boost? Sorry, who's that? Yeah, who's that?
Simon.
Sorry, Simon. Oh, Simon Degenhard.
I think that what's been said just now, that this is about boosting, is correct. But Bob, I'm at a loss as to why I was brought into this. You've named me in a document that's gone to hundreds of people, and I have nothing to do with this. I came to one Canary Cage Bird meeting. I never asked you to back me in anything. So why am I being named?
Do you want to?
I'll talk to you when you're invited to a meeting, man.
No, you mentioned me in a document.
You're not invited to this meeting. This is a federation meeting.
Radio.
Sorry, is everybody in this room a delegate?
They're all members of federation.
Brian, is that the case? I don't think that's the case. I don't think every room is a delegate or online is a delegate, and Simon is certainly a member of many affiliated clubs.
And I'd
including
just
two that I'm
say,
on the
Sam,
so that's not that's not true.
Anyway, it's for another time.
Yeah, for another time. Is there anybody else who'd like to talk about the Facebook matter?
I'll just say, you vote, he votes, I vote. We all vote for whoever we like.
Yep.
We don't need somebody with a loud voice that thinks he knows everything to tell you who to vote for.
Thank you, Michael. Your input is noted. Anybody else got a comment they'd like to make about the matter? Yeah, Murray.
I'd just like to say, I can understand where the canary fraternity, as Sam calls it, I can understand where you're coming from as far as you want to stay out of the politics and you just want to keep your birds. But I think we've got to think longer term than that. Like if your grandchildren and great-grandchildren aren't able to keep birds because the likes of the Animal Justice Party put a stop to it, it's about more than the next 20 years. It's beyond that, which is why I support the boosting this.
Yeah, Colin. So that was Murray McPherson, I think. You Abbey, New South Wales delegate. Yep. So Colin Isbister.
Colin Isbister. I'm the President of African Lovebird Society. I just want to give you a bit of background. I was in a position before I retired where I had to have a whole lot to do with these every day with politicians. And what I had to do, the University of Western Sydney had to get out of their horse unit, their round yard, everything there, as well as their farriers, because it's just got too difficult and what I went through. And there wasn't one person at the university who was prepared to take these people on. So it referred back to me, and I relocated from Sydney and part of Hawkesbury Ag across to Richmond TAFE. And I set all the facilities up from there. And I had fights and fights and fights with them. And people don't understand what the power these politicians have when they knew absolutely nothing about what we were going through and what they were doing. And the majority of the teachers and the professors had the best interest in them, but they just kiboshed the whole lot through their own little bit of crap what they were going on about. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think, yes, we've got to highlight out there and be very cautious of what we're doing. We're in a different world today. These politicians don't care about us. Some of these people just stroke a pen and that'll be the end of our birds.
I agree with you. Right. I'm a cage bird society isn't the right avenue.
Well, that's
if it's ACA with the dogs, the cats, the goldfish, the horses, everybody else, I'm happy if we donate money to them and say, do this from a political perspective. But when it's our names on the top of that, and the majority of the population are anti-birds in cages, we got nothing but loss on it. We cannot defend our name.
I think everyone is involved with our clear names on it. The more people that get involved, the better it is.
Can I just say, like what maybe you can wanted me. Sorry, I had it around the wrong way.
This is Sam.
I had it around the wrong way for ages. I think you're looking at the roof or something.
Come on, stop waving and say something.
But what I was going to say, I dispute what Bob's saying. I think in reality, the large majority of people are completely fine with canaries and budgies and finches and parrots and all that. Every year, as do a number of other people here, we go to the Sydney Royal. There's, I don't know, they say 1 million people go through. Obviously, 1 million don't go past our aviaries and our exhibition, but a couple of 100,000 every year. And of those people, we get what, 2 or 3, less than 5, who come and have a whinge. The large majority, the comments are, and I know the Brinkets are there with the hand raised birds, They're absolutely wrapped, and they talk about, oh, I had a finch cage when I was a kid, or I used to have a pet cockatiel, or whatever it is, and they're on our side. We just have to get them understanding that someone's trying to stop us. And the someone, in the case of New South Wales Parliament, is Emma Hurst, the Animal Justice Party. It's Georgie Purcell down in Victoria. And it's obviously, you know, Peter and all the animal rights people, and we're not disputing that they're against us. We get that. So, and I understand your point, Bob, that maybe Canary and Cage Bird Federation isn't the right organisation. I've come to accept that over the last couple of months through this anyway. I have to accept that. Half of the management committee are not agreeing with what I'm doing, and that's a problem for me. And I'd like to read what I've written about that at the end of this meeting. But we do need a solution, and I think Animal Care Australia is part of it. It's fantastic what they've done. We've now got connections to ministers, shadow ministers, chiefs of staff, all sorts of people. And I know Michael's sitting watching this meeting as well, and he's a big part of that. And you know, good mate, and done a brilliant job. We work together almost daily in submissions, modifying legislation, talking to policy officers all over the country to sort this stuff out through ACA. So I hope that Federation, no matter what is decided in terms of whether it's going to be the national organisation that does the government stuff and sticks its head above the sand, or whether it's going to be just go back to being an exhibition club and you all put your head in the sand, let someone else deal with it. Whatever it is that's decided, I hope that you'll at least help us to transition to whatever that national. We need a national organisation to represent agriculture. I think that's for sure. So whatever it is that emerges, whether it's Federation still or whether it's some new organisation, I hope that the people at Federation, including the ones who are, you know, Michael up there is basically telling me I'm a moron and a loudmouth dickhead, that even he'll kind of calm down and be willing to let us get on with the job, whatever that is that emerges. So I hope that can be some good come out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we got other people that want to talk? You make me come there grumpy.
Just a message for Sam. Sam, you're the president of the Canary and Cage Bird Federation. You go to the Royal Easter Show. What other shows do you go to?
Yeah.
What other shows do you go to per show?
What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
I don't really go to any shows. I go to a lot of bird sales. I go to a lot of other bird events. I was at the Save the Gouldian Fund's Gouldian Count. I run a charity, Australian Society for Avian Preservation, with Simon Degenhard. We've sponsored the release of a Spix's macaw, the first 12 that were released. I do a heap of other bird stuff. We're working on a black throat recovery program at the moment. But in terms of shows, no, that's not as I said, my interest. I accept that. My interest is breeding finches and breeding softbills at this point in time in my life. At some stage, I might get back into bunchies and go to shows.
You should go around to some of the bird shows, speak to the people that show the birds.
Well, that may well be a reasonable thing to ask, but I would ask, Greg, why haven't you been coming to Federation meetings? Why haven't most of the people in this room attended Federation?
Because of you.
All right, you better say, mate.
I used to go to Federation meetings. Right, we used to go to Federation meetings. You took over. I went for the first 2 years, and I thought, I'm not sitting through this garbage because you did nothing, said nothing about what goes on in clubland, just what you want to do with your political crap. Right? How many clubs have gone to the wayside since you've been there? How many Federation dues have we had? Club person of the year. Forget COVID. Since COVID's been none.
Thank you, Greg. I'll take that as a criticism. Fair enough.
I'll tell you what, they're pretty good with their criticisms tonight.
Yeah. Anybody else got a comment or a question?
Mark Cameron's got his hand up.
Mark Cameron's got his hand up, apparently.
Mark Cameron.
Speak, Mark Cameron.
Thanks. I'd like to just say a couple of words. Yeah, my name's Mark Cameron. I'm an affiliate from the Mornington Peninsula Agricultural Society. I'm on the management committee of the CCBFA, and I was asked to step in as a vice president of the CCBFA earlier in the year. The point that I'd like to make here, and it's for the boosting, is that the CCBFA has a national footprint. I accept the discussion needs to go about whether that's the case that you want or not. But aviculture is at risk. It is at risk today, it will be at risk tomorrow, and it will be at risk in the future if people like Sam, whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. Sam is the one that gets stuff done. He's the one that will allow the canary breeders, the finch breeders, the parrot breeders to continue to breed parrots. He will fight the government. He will fight the local councils. He will allow us all collectively to keep breeding our birds. If we don't continue to boost, if we don't boost or we don't take these sort of actions, we will find that our grandkids will not be able to keep birds. I'm 100% behind Sam in what he has been doing. It did go through management committee. It may not have been unanimous, but it went through. This is right for aviculture. If you want to bury your head in the sand, your grandchildren won't be keeping birds. And I think that'll be a travesty. Thank you.
Yeah, well said, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Any other comments in here or online?
Ian Brown here from NFSA. I'm the Queensland rep. A couple of things. How many clubs are affiliated with CCBFA? And does every one of those clubs get emailed to the right email address, or to the correct contact in that club? And do you get responses from every one of those clubs? Because no decision can be made from a national body such as the CCBFA without response from every affiliated club. Response?
Yeah, I agree with Ian that is the reality. But Ian Brown, do you know how many clubs are on?
222 clubs affiliated. Sam has the email addresses of all clubs that we have been notified of, and response, I would say, would only be 20%.
Yes, that's true. I mean, as far as look, do we have the correct email addresses for a lot of clubs? Probably not, because as Ron said, and in his defence, it's not easy. We send out renewals. They pay each year. Do we end up with the correct delegates? Do we end up with the correct email addresses? Who knows? But my emails that led to this meeting, I think I've got over 400 people on the list. Are all clubs literally being notified? No idea. I think a lot of those people in reality ignore the emails that anybody sends. Clearly, the number that we've got voting, regardless of whether it's for or against, is something like 30, 35, something like that. Now, 35 out of 200 plus on an issue like this, so I think is shocking, really. And it's just shows the amount of disinterest, really, in this matter. I mean, it's fantastic to see so many people here in person, and it's fantastic to have 20 plus online. This is the biggest Federation meeting we've had probably since I've been involved. I'm not sure. I don't think. We generally get something like 20. Roughly the people that are online now that you saw when the laptop was working, it was on the screen for those here. We normally get that. And there is a good mix. And to be honest, I've been quite, until this issue, I was quite proud of the fact that we had people from interstate now contributing. I was completely unaware that that was an issue for people in New South Wales or for exhibitors. I was completely unaware. I really didn't think it was an issue. I thought it was actually fantastic that we had the Victorian Agricultural Council. I noticed their president, Mark Godwell, is online tonight. That we had Gary Fitt from Queensland and Ian Brown representing the National Finch and Softbill Association, that we've got some people from Queensland Budgerigar clubs. We've got a range of people over that. We've had people from South Australia. I don't know if there's anyone online tonight. We've had the odd person from Western Australia at some meetings. I saw that as an absolute positive. I accept that's not the view of the people, I presume. I don't know, not everybody's spoken, of a range of people sitting in this room. I accept that that's the case. It's been pretty clear from the emails for the management committee as well. Can I ask, is there anybody else who'd like to? I think our 40 minutes is probably up, and Deb's about to choke you. You're all right. We don't want someone choke in front of us. God.
Yeah, Sam.
Any other?
Yeah, Sam. It's Mark from Shoalhaven again. I would just like
Mark
to say,
Serace from Shoalhaven Abbey.
Yeah, just in case my
just maybe speak up a bit, Mark, because it's a bit quiet.
Yeah, from Shoalhaven Agricultural Society. I'd just like to say, in case my intention was missed in the first instance, that my club, I put this question to my club at the last meeting, and we were 100% behind you boosting. 100%.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. And look, that sort of highlights my concern with this, as president of a substantial association with, as we've heard from Ron, 200 plus clubs, that we've got absolutely the opposite. It's not like some people are just passing it and some people are just not passing it. It's either unanimous one way or it's unanimous the other way. And as Bob said, that's a concern. To have clubs that absolutely support it and clubs that are absolutely against it is a real problem, isn't it? And it's something that that somehow Federation's got to resolve, I suppose, somehow. And we're not going to resolve it tonight, are we? I guess, as Bob said, we I guess moving forward, that's what happens. We wait and this meeting I'll send a link to this meeting because it is still being recorded, so that other clubs are able to watch it and listen and maybe form their opinion. And then, as we said, I think, and decided at the previous meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, that then do we get the votes for November then? Is that the feeling of the meeting here?
I'm anti that, but that's what was moved. I think this has gone on since whenever it may. This is insane. It's fracturing this wallet.
We should give everyone 2 opportunities to respond, Sam.
Yeah.
So you should kill it tonight.
Well, I'll leave that up to you guys. Perhaps I don't know how you make a decision about that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. We've just had a debate tonight to enable clubs to address the matter. So to kill it tonight is insane. The whole point of tonight was to debate the issue so that people can come, and people have come along and listened, and so that clubs online have listened, and the idea was that we send a copy of this meeting so that people can then take it back to their clubs, and then at the November meeting have a vote. In fact, I don't think we even said it had to happen at the November meeting. So
we need to make it. You can't keep going. This is insane.
Well,
so whatever it is, it's got to be.
Well, do you want to move that there's a vote, whatever the vote, and people can send email their club's response to the question to Ron, and he'll compile, as he has been doing, the results, and then I guess the final tally and vote will be the November meeting.
Okay.
Well, do you want to move that, Bob?
Yep.
State it.
The votes remain open until the next meeting, November. 3rd of November, and then end of October cutoff.
Right.
To resolve it once and for all, and then simply count the votes, and where it is where it is. But have we finished that topic? Because I know you want to say a bit more. I don't want this to get hostile, right? I know people are passionate and emotional. What we can't continue doing that, and I understand from you'll notice Sam and I are strangling each other, right? Which is good. It's because in our way we
promised you'd buy me a beer later.
No, I'm not going to buy you a beer. We sort of agree on lots of things together, right? I've been on many groups with him and stuff, so I know he's passionate. I know he says things that make my skin crawl occasionally, and I get my hackles up. But in the main, I know he's acting what he thinks is the right thing to do. I think as a group, we need to give that direction. Are we going to be federal? Fine, if we are. I got no dramas saying we shouldn't be. What What I do have issues with is going off and making calls, right? So we won't debate whether he had the backing or didn't have the backing when he did the boost. Ian Brown was starting to do an argument saying, you know, unless everybody agrees, we shouldn't be doing anything. Well, we didn't all agree to do the boosting in the first place, right? So we need to decide how this place runs, right? This is what our objectives are. This is how we project it. This is the minimum requirements you need to approve and things like that. What we can't live with is what we have today, where Sam's declining to represent as a canary in case for Federation. He keeps saying that, well, he doesn't get the backing. I have yet to find anybody else actually that is said, you know, don't do that, Sam, we don't engage with anyone else. The executives have only talked about whether the boost would be one or not. So they're not going to councils or not going to government meetings. You know, he's been doing it for 6 years, as you pointed out. Why he would stop now just makes no sense to me at all. So I think.
Can I ask a question, Sam?
Until November, then it should be different as usual. Nothing different. Huh?
Sam, can I ask the question?
We got a question?
Neil Love from the ANBC. Sam, is there anything in the Constitution or the workings of the CCBFA of a percentage per vote compared to membership? Is there a 75% vote on membership numbers? Is there anything in the Constitution that dictates that?
No, I believe. I think that's the love, was it, from Queensland?
Yes.
My understanding, and I think on this, Ron and I and Bob will agree. The reality is, it doesn't matter whether you got 1,000 members or 5 members, you get one vote as a club.
Yeah.
Which is perhaps something else that needs to be looked at, because there are obviously some organisations that are affiliated with Federation. That, I mean, there's some that I'm involved in. I know the Finch Society Australia, for instance, has 3 members, and there are others with more members than that. And of course, there are other clubs that have 10 members, and so on. But how you nut that out, I've got no idea. But at the moment, no, 1 vote per club.
No, I mean, Sam, as a percentage of the number, say there's 222 clubs that are affiliated, that you have a 75% vote from those clubs that gets you over the board. Like we've only got 33 presently that have voted. So that wouldn't constitute, in my mind, a passing of the motion or a negative to the motion. There's just not enough votes.
I understand your point now. Yes, I'm not. Yeah,
Need to pick a percentage as a majority vote.
If it needs to be an absolute majority, then you'd need votes in favour or against of what was the number Ron said, 220 or something, 110 plus 1. If it was 220, wouldn't you? That's I don't think that's what's in the. I think, to be fair, the Constitution is whoever votes.
Yeah, okay. It just sounds negative that you've only got 33 out of 222. Doesn't seem a very strong vote in compared to yes or no. So,
indeed, there's something to look at, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks.
Sam, it's Richard Law again. I just reiterate the point I made earlier. Clubs haven't been formally asked to register a vote as yet. All the documentation said discuss it, as we're doing tonight, and be ready to give your opinion at the November meeting. So I reiterate the point I made. Someone from Federation, perhaps yourself or Ron, needs to get out to clubs, cast your vote before the 29th of November or whatever that date is, and register a simple yes or no in relation to boosting. That's why many of the clubs haven't responded. Our club is sitting, but we made a decision at Hunter. We're sitting back waiting to cast that vote at the next meeting. It's not through apathy. In fact, we've been very well organised at Hunter. We've just been following the procedure that was spelt out as to how this decision will be made. So I think it's now time to get an email out saying, clubs, you've had your talk, you've had your chance to do it. Here's the video of the meeting for you to have a look at if you choose to, but get your vote in. And to pick up on what Neil Love said, I'm fairly certain it would be made as a simple majority of those who do cast their vote. It's not a referendum. There doesn't have to be any set percentage, and just encourage clubs to vote. Now that we have the facts and we've had tonight's discussion.
Yes, now that was just for those in the room, that's Richard Law, I believe, from Hunter Valley Bench Club. Yeah, totally agree. So that backs up what Bob's motion, that we notify clubs that they need to get their voting by the end of October in preparation for the voting tally announced at the November meeting. Is there anybody else online or here who's got another comment? Otherwise, we'll move on to the final bit, which is sort of
one more question, Sam.
Which kind of done. Sorry. Yep. Maybe go up there, Ben.
The next meeting that we have in November, are we going to have it just on Zoom or people turning up like it is tonight?
Wherever you meeting
Sorry, maybe.
Ron says he's booked Ashfield.
I have booked Ashfield, but wherever the meeting should decide, we in face and Zoom.
Both.
Share with you for everybody else. I'll check Ashfield out, see what the facilities like. They told me they've got a larger screen now. Here it is, just suitable.
Well, I want to. Is anybody else got any other comments about the issue? Because I'd like to just make a final statement. So, as many of you know, I run a substantial business, and I'm involved in a range of community-based matters, not just birds. And I'm under pressure to run for many representative positions, including for local council that I'm looking possibly to do next year. I made it clear already to the management committee that I won't be standing. I initially, when I stood as president for this organisation, it was for 5 years. So I won't be standing. This issue, though, has allowed me to reprioritise. Ron Robertson's email, which cherry-picked the Gloucester Club's response, in my view, implied I was acting outside the Constitution and potentially spending funds without approval. That was an enormous shock to me. Ron sent this email to some 30 clubs without, but can I just finish, then you can have a say if you'd like, Ron, without consulting or discussing with me prior. And clearly, he and no doubt others have continued lobbying against it since. Some of the replies in response to Ron's email border on defamatory. It disappoints me that Ron didn't come to my defence as a consequence of some of those to correct the record. The management committee is composed of Bob Huns, Mark Cameron, Ron Robertson, Colin Ispers, Ben Lloyd, Christine Gunther, Jason Forrest and I. I thank Mark, Ben and Colin for their ongoing support. Ron and Bob have indicated that I had not been obtaining approval from all the management committee to act on matters, specifically this matter that's come to our attention tonight about boosting, but others as well. Therefore, in response to what Bob's mentioned a few times, I have been seeking such approval in recent months. Sadly, many on the management committee failed to respond to my emails and do not return phone calls. So several issues now have gone unanswered to the detriment of agriculturists in various regions of Australia. Ron and Bob have expressed the view, as we've voted about here, that CCBFA should not involve itself in matters outside of New South Wales. Christine, on behalf of the clubs she's involved with, has indicated, in her view, that Federation should be apolitical, which means not be involved in any government political issues whatsoever. And we've heard more about that tonight. Sadly, my friend Jason Forrest has not responded, and it's disappointing to me that I don't know what's happened to that friendship. He doesn't return my calls. I don't understand. I don't claim to understand, but it is clear to me that at this point,
I no longer have Bob, Ron, Christine or Jason's support in any practical sense. Ron's email and the lack of management committee communication is completely at odds with how I operate and the work I've done on behalf of agriculture nationally. My role, in my view, is no longer tenable. There are two options, as our good friend up the back, Michael Fogarty, I think was your name, has indicated. Either Ron, Bob and Christine resign or I must resign. So they're clearly not going to resign. Therefore, I will resign all roles with CCBFA effective immediately. So I will not be attending the November meeting. That's the end for me with Federation at this point in time. I do wish you well in sorting out these issues. There's just a few matters I just want to talk to before I leave. I'm not sure clubs are aware that I was working, and I get that, you know, people were not aware of this, to slowly migrate Federation administration operation to more efficient online systems. I completely understand Ron's reluctance to give up manual processes that he's been using for decades, and I have much respect for Ron in terms of the work that he's done for Federation, and he is the reason that 99% of the reason I got involved with Federation was due to Ron, and he has been a terrific support over many years, despite what I've just said above. The website and its back-end database were a major part of this move. Running meetings via Zoom was another, to be able to include people nationally. I accept that that may have been a mistake. I don't know how I misread that. I had no idea that there was this problem that people did not want us to be national. I was also using some of my staff and printing facilities to assist with Feathered World and distribution of invoices and so on. Obviously, my work in those areas will cease. I'll let Ron know all the passwords and authentication and so on for any of the online stuff. I guess either it goes by the wayside or somebody else will need to take on those roles. CCBFA had built a solid reputation at all levels of government in many states and federally as a direct consequence of my and other people's efforts in recent years. I'm very proud of what we achieved. Federation is now viewed as a national body representing the bulk of agriculture in Australia. Whether this room recognises that or not, government in New South Wales, in Queensland, in Victoria, in federal government in Canberra do. Many local government organisations and compliance officers and so on do. That's a fact. It's a shame to throw all that down the gurgler, but I accept that that is the reality. In the interim, I intend to continue this work as part of my Vice President and Bird Representative role with Animal Care Australia, alongside other bird representative organisations. The VAC I know is present, NFSA is present, there are others as well. I would ask that Federation support this work and do not impede this work. I'm aware of others looking at options to build a national representative organisation for all of agriculture in Australia as a consequence of what's happened here. I am fully supportive of this and I wish them well. I would hope that Federation, whatever happens, would support that transition. So thanks to all that have supported me over the last nearly 6 years. It's much appreciated. And although I won't be involved with engaged with Federation, I'm sure Michael's probably smiling up the back. You haven't got rid of me completely, my friend.
You had 20 minutes 2 hours ago. You never, you're like all my minutes. You never showed you at least.
Hey, Michael, why don't you shut up?
Just resigned after 6 years. I'm like the class clown. I used to be a deputy principal. We used to toss people out and sitting up the back yelling abuse out. In this case, I'll let you stay.
Here's the next Federation president.
You got a nomination, Michael, for the next president.
Hey, someone throw him out.
All right.
Unless anyone, are there any other comments people would like to make before we close the meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment if I could, please.
So this is Mark Cameron, yes?
Yeah, look,
Mark Cameron is the other, I might just so other people can hear. So
yeah,
Mark Cameron is currently Vice President of Federation with Bob.
Yeah,
Sorry,
look,
Mark.
very quickly, I came on board at the request of the President and others to support what I saw as positive initiatives in the interests of aviculture in general, and specifically to represent Victorian aviculture on the CCBFA. I did this as I have a real concern that the actions of certain political parties and sections of the community will mean that my grandchildren will not be able to enjoy aviculture as I have and my father did before me. As such, I fully support the actions of the President. I feel the actions of a few, in ignorance of reality, have created a fracture within the CCBFA as a national body. And this fracture and this damage to aviculture is going to be incredibly difficult to fix. As such, I therefore feel it's only appropriate that I follow the lead of the President and resign from the role of CCBFA Vice President and Committee immediately.
Mark, can I just ask you to repeat the last sentence, because just as you started saying the word that starts with R, it went jittery.
Okay. I therefore follow the lead of the President and resign from the role of CCBFA Vice President and Management Committee effectively immediately. I will, if able, via Zoom, continue to attend CCBFA general meetings representing the Mornington Peninsula Avicultural Society and as a member of the VAC with the support of Mark Godwell and David Reynolds. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Your support is appreciated by me. I think Ben wants to say something too. Put his hand up.
Oh,
no? Oh, yeah. Okay. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Do you want me to hold it or?
I guess this was my worst outcome, that this would happen, that Sam would walk away like this. I think for 6 years he's done more than we expected of him. So he's done a good job. Like I say, I've disagreed with him on many occasions, but I think what he's done outweighs our disagreements. I would hope that going forward there is a body that defends us. Like I say, I'll stick to my guns and say it shouldn't be us, but it should be us in combination with the ACA maybe. And if that relationship holds, I think that would be good. Despite what other people are saying, we're not running around with our heads in the sand. We're trying to have the club we want. So I wish Sam well with his future stuff, and from my perspective, I don't see there's any reason we wouldn't support his endeavours with some other group. So thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Bob.
You guys are an absolute joke.
Steve, I would like to.
Sorry, Ron wants to say something.
I'd like to express my appreciation to you, despite what you've said. The work and effort you've put in over the last 6 years has been tremendous. You've represented at all levels of government, and we haven't considered that as political. We've considered that as advocating for aviculture, which you have done. And in relation, you referred to a letter I sent out 6 lines extract of the Gloucester 3-page letter, which you obviously have not read. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had this meeting tonight.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Oh, we're going to have to talk with
the room's emptying, is it? Ben, did you want to say something though? I think Ben wanted to say something.
I also will be stepping down from management committee as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything? Otherwise, we'll here's my last statement. 10:06. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all, and note it's been recorded, so we'll make the recording available to all clubs. And I guess I'll as my final parting gesture, I'll send an email with the link to the meeting for people. Thanks all. Cheers.
Well done, Sam.
Good on you, Sam.
Great work, Sam.
Good work, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Well done. All the best.
Good night.
Good night.